Well, good evening, and welcome to Masterpiece Theater. No, actually, it's Wednesday evening, and it is episode number 153 of The Other Side of the Ball, coming to you live in a galaxy far, far away. I'm Dub, and as usual, I got my quarterback with me, Mr. Corey Hammond. But before we go any further, Mr. Vera, enjoy your own personal holiday today. It is
It is
Mr.
Chris
Vera's
Vera
birthday.
Day.
Yes. Yes, it is. So, hopefully, I'm sure Miss Tammy is spoiling him, and if he's not at one of his favorite places, I'm sure she is treating him to something good. So, Chris, good eating, and enjoy the next chapter that you are about to write as you put the pen and paper to the next chapter of your life. Happy birthday, and hopefully, maybe he decides to come back with us next week.
Well, and if he does or he doesn't, he still deserves the day today, and he's earned even next week hypothetically. So, Dub, how are you this fine Wednesday afternoon? I guess in Vegas evening for the old Jersey.
Oh, just here, getting ready for work again as we are coming to you live on what seems like to be like on a radio type of show, but here we are here nonetheless, getting ready to count down the top 7 athletes of our past season here in the A7FL, and there's a lot of great athletes in our league, to say the least. That basically is the Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades, doing whatever they can to try to help their teams win games. Um, and certainly, this list is no different from all the lists that we've done in the last year and a half, doing this top seven of the previous season. But I mean, there's a lot of great athletes that have done a lot of things to help contribute to their team's success or help them trend in the right direction heading towards 2026.
Yeah, and when we say athlete, obviously we have a ton of really great and athletic players in our league. But these are the guys that kind of you find it hard to pigeonhole them into a specific role, right? So when we do the wide receivers and we do an Eric Schuford, for instance, excuse me, an Eric Shufford. Wait, it is Schuford, isn't it?
He was right the first time, Shuford, yes.
I always double correct myself. Anyway, whenever we do Munchie, right? The thing is that he's earned the right to be considered that wide receiver. But if for whatever reason we didn't have him at wide receiver, well, for the Insomniacs, he'll just play whatever position his team needs him most at and then go from there, right? So he's played linebacker, D end,
Safety.
tight end, quarterback, and I saw him one time giving guys water on the sidelines. Now, he's no water boy, but he's willing to do whatever it takes to get the Insomniacs a win at the end of the day on a Sunday. And these guys are kind of those guys that, like, don't necessarily make the list at any of those other positions solely, but their impact isn't felt by just that one position slot. These guys make their teams better in as many ways as the guy can.
Well, very well said. Very well said. Um, so, I mean, let's get some honorable mentions out the way before we go full fledged into this countdown. Who you think who you think are deserving of an honorable mention as I try to get the right proper English out of my mouth?
Well, I'm gonna be a homer, real quick, and this guy, I think, he's got a cult following in the A7FL because of a certain highlight in which he jumped over a dude, and that's kind of been his legacy. L.J. Smith gave him a nickname, and it almost seems too perfect. At the same time, it could be considered maybe even a backhanded compliment or a front-handed diss. But Mister One Big Play himself, Bobby Newman for my Hawks team, not only had to do the team owner thing and deal with all the grown men that might as well be cats trying to be herded by a shepherd, but he also was the starting and pretty much most effective tight end for the Hawks, as well as an every down defensive player at either linebacker or defensive end. And although he didn't put up the stats that he may have even wanted at the tight end position, he was one of the leading tacklers on the Hawks, as well as being an every down player on the offensive side of the ball. And you saw it in the first couple of games of the season when the Hawks were on the big screen in games of the week. He's a good target at tight end, even when he has to block most of the time because his quarterback needs that time. And I know that quarterback specific needs very well. So for an honorable mention, because I don't know if he'll make the list, I'm going to put in there Bobby Newman, who was a two-way player for the Hawks, and really carried his weight as a man who's already retired 4 times from A7FL. And I got to just give him his props here on the other side of the ball as for his honorable mention. Who you got? Who you got on your side to be biased over?
Well, there's plenty of names. And he's kind of added this to his wrinkle the last couple of years. Marcus Betts from Sigwood. I mean, mainly we've seen him as a wide receiver, but he's been used in the secondary. He's been used as a returner, and of course, still doing his wide receiver thing. There's Derek Cunningham from the Gold, although he did this more so with the pit bosses. But I mean, he is played defense, played offense. He's done special teams. Also, I will throw in Jermaine Levy, better known as Crown, who is also another guy that hurdled a person during a 3-on-1 return. But Crown has played defense. He's played offense. He's played, special teams. So he's been, played at every levels of the 3 levels of football that it is: offense, defense, and special teams. Let's see, who else do I have? Heck, I'll even throw in the Hicks brothers, JB and Marlon Hicks from the Hunters. They have played on both sides of the ball, and I know Marlon for sure has done 3-on-1 returns. So I mean, there's like I said, there's a lot of athletes that have played all 3 faces. I'll even throw Ronald Gaither from the Stealth, who has also done all 3 levels, although he's still recovering from his knee injury that he suffered. But I mean, I have seen Gaither do all 3 levels, and have done it at a very high level for whatever team he's played for. So I mean, like I said, there's a lot of names um, that are worthy of being on this list and just showing their great athleticism on the field, playing all 3 levels of football.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I think maybe 1 or 2 of those names might even make our list. Our list is I'll be honest, in an off season where we're trying to be as diverse as possible, it seems like the there's less guys that stood out at the end of the day, in my opinion. Um, to be kind of considered for these lists, and I think there's a little bit to do with a little bit of the contraction of the A7, right? We're missing, a couple of teams from each division a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the talent spread meant that the guys that fit this role, they weren't featured as much at the where they wanted to be, so they kind of just helped out where they could. And at the end of the day, I think, you know, we missed guys on this that would be on this list that just didn't play enough. And it's a shame, that we were missing some of those guys. But I don't know. We're kind of doing this list, uh, off the dome. And based on what we were saying pre-show, I don't think we have anybody pinned down. So you want to just kind of have the open forum conversation and just kind of see where the chips land.
Yeah, I mean that sounds logical.
Because I think one of the names that you said that stood out to me, and I think he might even be a little higher on this list than what we were talking about. I really appreciated what I saw Betts do, because I think Betts, although he is a very capable receiver, he when as a ball carrier, whether it's on jets or catching the ball and then in space, he's obviously a skilled guy. But I saw him this year. I think he made just as much, if not more, of an impact at the defensive end position. If correct me if I'm wrong, right?
No, I mean he was definitely very versatile on the defensive side. Like I said, sometimes giving Deion Sanders a break here and there in the back in the secondary, mainly being a spy at linebacker, but of course also he also made some impact in the return game. Again, just showing off his versatility because for a long time, when you thought of Betts, you thought of him being the complement to Darren Palmer on the wide receiving end, and certainly when Jeremy Geary was the quarterback, he certainly utilized both of them in the pass game. And then, of course, Coach Gray finds another wrinkle to use him in, and of course, used him very, very effectively. So, certainly, Betts is very deserving of being on this list, showing off his versatility and prowess.
Yeah, and in a similar vein as when we talk about how Kason Campbell's evolution as a wide receiver started with moments of kind of not necessarily disappointment, but maybe unrealized full potential. I remember, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a post in the Vegas players page, and it was from Betts, and he was basically saying like, "Hey guys," and I'm paraphrasing here, so I'm sure he'll get upset about it. But he was like, "Guys, look at me. I'm him. Like you guys, right?" And he's on sick with it. With has Darren Palmer, has other receivers, and at the time it was Tierra Edwards or Andrew Luwalamana, and I think there was another couple guys there that I'm just blanking on. And it wasn't that Betts wasn't getting big touches. It was just that, in the scheme of, what Sickwit was doing, he wasn't necessarily the featured star. And you know what you could do? You just grind, you play football, and you play it well wherever you are. Hey, you're going to get noticed. And I'm going to be honest. When he said, "Hey, look at me," I did start to look at him. And I could tell that obviously the guy was talented. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're talented, it doesn't necessarily translate into production on the field. It's almost like the conundrum that fantasy owners get to, right? Hey, Jerry Jeudy can run the hell out of a route tree, but if he doesn't have a quarterback to throw him the ball and on time, or if he doesn't have the work ethic, talent doesn't really mean anything in the scheme of how an offense actually operates, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to no fault of his own, he was saying, "Look, guys, I'm him," and nobody was saying like, "You're him" in reply. So guess what? He grinded. He did what he had to do. Got on the field, made plays wherever he was at, and now he's our number 7 athlete
And
of the 2025 A7FL season. The athlete from Sickwit.
and by the way, good evening, Mizzle. How are you? Didn't not want to not recognize your comment there. So hello, Mr. Mizzle.
So, Dub, what up, Miz? So, Dub, I think you do number 6 because if you look at our little chat. By the way, shout out to Scott Hamilton for one of the best replies in a Facebook Messenger group chat
That
in
that
the
that
past week.
that
Uh,
was
the
that was
question
a good.
the
He
question proposed was what position tonight, and if you know Scott, ask him what his answer was. It was legendary. That's just a little
basically
behind the show.
he basically said Snoop Dogg's first album, and if you
Yes,
know, you know.
if you know, you know. What is that? IKYK, right? Um,
Yeah,
I think that's the
I Y
acronym.
I Y K Y K, and
Something.
sort along those
I can't
lines.
pronounce it. But if you look at our group chat, and you know, you mentioned a bunch of those names. Now Derek Cunningham and Gaither, you kind of put in the honorable mention. But there's another name up there I think that might fit, and it's not Prime, it's not Lions, and it's not Shuford, who all have already made lists before. But for number 6, do you think that other, some might call him Eminem because it's MM is his name? Do you
You mean Mr. Murphy?
Yeah. I don't know. How would you feel co-signing that as our number 6
Well, I
athlete
mean,
of the 2025 season?
well, I'll say this about Matt Murphy, who is Marcus Betts' teammate on Stickwood. I'll say this about Murph. It it doesn't matter which side of the ball he's playing, but Matt Murphy always makes a play somewhere for Stickwood in every game. It never fails. Number one, that just shows how great he is a football player and how great of a football IQ he has, and just his mindset. but also just the you know the tenaciousness of just I'm gonna get it done, you know, by hook or by crook, and that's just who he is as a player, and just his ferocity. Doesn't matter if it's special teams, doesn't matter if it's sacking the quarterback, doesn't matter if it's batting the ball down, doesn't matter if it's batting the ball up and letting his teammate get the interception, or him catching the ball, which we have seen him do numerous of times. It's just his versatility knows no limits, for lack of a better term, for sick with it. So there's if you're just trying to make a list of football players, he is definitely one person you want on your team just because you literally can put him anywhere on the field and he will make a contribution somehow, some way, and help your team win somehow, some way, as he has done with Sick the last few seasons. Um, he's always definitely one name that you have to look for when you do play Sick. Yes, we always talk about, you know, Darren Palmer and Lavish when he was playing, and now, and of course, who's Big Josiah Sal. But you really have to start mentioning the name Matt Murphy on guys that you have to contain when you're playing Sick with it for sure.
Was that two back-to-back six?
That is.
Oh, well, I guess we'll keep them coming. So number 6 is a sick. So that makes sense. Um, Now for number 5, I kind of wanted I'm leaning between one or the other, and I want you to tell me. And this might influence a later list. But Dub, I'm leaning one or the other. Now the first guy that I'm going to mention could make the list at another position. And but the thing is when you look at when you look statistically, I don't know if this guy makes the quarterback cut, because even though you could tell when you watch his team play that he's the leader of his offense, that the offense runs through him, and if he doesn't succeed, his team has very little chance of doing so as well. I don't know if the limited amount of actual games of the week appearances, and by the way, statistical prowess, if we're being fair, when you really do break down the numbers. But for me, one of the guys I'm considering for this number 5 is Keno Thomas from the QC Crush. Now, Keno will play other positions. He sometimes even gets caught out there at defense. When his
Mm-hmm.
team needs them and they're traveling, he'll even do the special teams stuff. Um, but I do think that there is a case to be made for him to be one of the top 7 quarterbacks. If he doesn't make that top 7 quarterback list, in my opinion, I think he definitely is one of the top 50 best as A7FL players in the league, especially when you really break it down. Although there are other good players on the QC Crush, the Crush go as Keno Thomas goes. And for a guy that was supposed to head up into this year and be able to play his natural position receiver, and there was other guys slated to play that position who just happened to just not show up all season. It's even more of a athlete type of thing for him to just step in where his team needs him when he was expecting all season to do something else. And then he has to step back into a position where a lot of people doubt him. A lot of people say he's out of position. He should play somewhere else. And he just goes out there in an imperfect situation and got a lot of wins for his team and was damn near a couple plays away from beating the East Orange Renegades in the playoffs. But Dub, I'm wrestling Keno Thomas at number 5 with another guy that I well, we've done both of his positions. So this is another guy that's definitely not going to make the list anywhere else. But call me biased. Firsthand knowledge, I saw him personally win the game for us in both of our 2 wins as Hawks. Now, he did miss a couple of games because of injury this season, and he is up there in age. But with 4 reception touchdowns in the 2 wins, and 3 interceptions all season, Amir Chick Morris for the Hawks was one of the most important players for that team. And in games he played, Chick Morris, the Hawks were 2-2. And for a team that went 2-5, those 3 games missing Chick, we struggled. And so he was a steadying force on the defense. He made a huge interception when we were out in Indiana to help secure that game against the Octane, and a game that nobody saw against the Buzz, our other win. He was the guy who started the game off with a touchdown catch, as well as finished the game off with some great play on defense. So I'll put it to you because obviously I'm a little bit biased on this one. What do you feel about my proposition for you with the either or at number 5?
I mean, you really could make 1-5 and 1-4 because I mean, first off, let me say this about Keno. Um, Now, oftentimes you often will hear me say, "All I want to do is just be a good teammate." Keno Thomas was the definition of being a good teammate this past season because, as we know, as you just said, his natural position is wide receiver. But whatever his team has asked him to do, he has done it. Even if he, didn't want to do it. I mean, he showing his selflessness and showing that what, I might not want to do it, but if this helps my team win, you know what, I'll do it. Kudos to him because a lot of people can go off their ego and be like, you know what, no, I'm not gonna do it, but he did. So I mean, I'm good with putting Keno 5 and Chick 4 because I mean, obviously
Well,
you
here's my
feel
thing though, because
okay.
on my list, the list that we sent you, I have a 4, a 3, a 2, and a 1 that are neither of these guys. So my
Well, we,
proposition to
we can
you
well
is
we
to
can put we can put them both at number 5 because I mean,
well, but here's my thing. Maybe a little bit of a preview for next week, although it could be in 2 weeks. So we could just do 3-on-1 returners last. And if we do this one list real quick, maybe we just do the 3-on-1 returners real quick tonight because I mean that's a quick one. I don't know if we have a full show of just talking about the returners, but does Keno make the seven? The like just first impression is Keno going to make the top 7 quarterbacks? And we don't have to go too far into it because then we'll just preview the whole show of when quarterbacks happen. But are there 7 quarterbacks that you would list ahead of Keno Thomas when statistically there are 7 quarterbacks in front of Keno Thomas? But his worth to that team is I think it's above and beyond what the stat sheet shows.
oh, yeah, I mean sometimes I mean you talk about all the time the intangibles. I mean sometimes the intangibles go over the actual stats, if you will, and that's sometimes just very hard to not even sometimes you just look past the numbers to just see what kind of intangibles that player has. So I mean he's capable. He is very capable of making the top 7 quarterback list. It's very capable because again, like I said, the intangibles are definitely there. When you talk about him, that's the one thing that really stands out is the intangibles. I mean, that's the one thing I think about Matt Murphy is his intangibles just stand out. That's why he's so versatile everywhere he goes and everywhere he plays. So I mean, this particular list that we're talking about that we're doing right now is probably one of the toughest to do because there's just so much versatility and so much versatile athletes that we have, and you feel bad because unfortunately somebody will be left off because it's hard to put one over the other if you catch my drift.
Yeah. All right. So you're going to be non-committal, which is fair. How about this? Let's let's chance them. Let's leave it up to chance because I'll be honest. I didn't see Keno do much other than play quarterback this year, even though he's capable and I'm sure he was willing. So let's put Amir Chick Morris number 5,
I'm okay with that.
which means that we are all the way up to number 4.
Number
And for
four,
me, I
yes,
think
yes, yes.
I think the one of the biggest travesties of this season is the lost opportunity for the great film and the great games that we miss from that DMV division not being really visible. There was a playoff game between the U and Watchmen that went down to the last possession, and it might be one of the last hurrahs of quarterback Quattro Huffin for the U, who was injured all season and then came back in the playoffs, and then they had this great game that nobody watched. There was also a bunch of regular season games between those three teams, the Watchmen, the Buzz, and the Heathens, that we just didn't get to either see or even witness the statistical evaluation because they just weren't taken down. But for my number four guy that I'll throw out here is definitely a name that A7FL fans will be familiar with. And it's a guy, an A7FL champion from the state of Maryland, which there aren't that many that still play. And this is a guy who even has a nickname from LJ Smith, the Mean Machine. And he's a tight end playmaker for John Gauze when he's in, and a defensive end that can wreak havoc in the backfield. And if you didn't already know, his name is Nick Mays, our number four athlete of the 2025 season. And honestly, in a pinch, Nick Mays could make this list every year because he's just doing those types of things week in and week out. And I just wanted to shout out a guy that definitely deserves it, but also kind of remind the A7FL community that, yes, the Watchmen are a team, at least for now, and they have a ton of talent on that roster. So, number four, Nick Mays from the Watchmen.
To answer your question, Will Franklin, we are talking about the top seven 2025, and
And to be specific, we're talking about
for chiming in.
ATHs, right? We're not saying that these guys are the most athletic guys in
Yes.
our league. We're saying that when we're ranking positions, these guys fit that ATH because there is no round hole to fit their, you know, quadrilateral peg into. These guys are the outside of the box football players that don't fit the convention of just one position. And Will Franklin, shout outs to you for being a very committed listener and also a well informed zebra on the field for Sundays. Now, Dub, do you have the list that I sent you of the first couple
Yes,
names when I said some names?
indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Because look, I mean, we constantly hate on this guy, and rightfully so for the lack of times we get to see
Um,
him. But I'm going to let you say number three because the fact is that even though we barely got to see this guy, I mean, come on, are we really keeping him off the list? Go ahead, Dub.
well, I mean, you saw
Number
him now.
three.
You saw him now. Are we going with the nickname, or are we going with the name under the nickname? That would be my question.
You're talking about MB, right?
Well, I mean, we saw his versatility in 2023 in Bullhead City, and then
Yes, we did.
basic, and then basically to um, come to a team and and basically just be the selfless guy talking about, hey, wherever you need me to play, I will play, and certainly helped the Trenton BIC once again for the third time in their history regain the crown. Of course, we are talking about the one, the only, the one special talents that is one Mark Bagway coming in at number three on our top seven athletes of 2025. Of course, we know Mark Bagway to be the guy doing it all, along with Logo Davis in Tampa with the Tampa Nightcrawlers, but we did not have a Florida division in 2025. So Mr. Bagway took his talents to Trenton to play for the BIC and basically be a key cog, whatever the BIC needed him to be, whether it was playing in the secondary or being the ultimate neutralizer as he was in the 3-on-1 return game after Donnie Lyons took one back to the house earlier in the first half of the title game in Jackson, New Jersey, which pretty much led um, the BIC to be like, you know what, you're taking over throw-offs, and pretty much the 3-on-1 factor was not a factor at all for the rest of the game for the Insomniacs. And then, of course, being in the secondary, trying to guard David Clark is a tough assignment. And, I mean, there were some times to where David Clark got free by Bagway, but at the end, Bagway did play a huge role on one aspect of the game on special teams by not making sure the Insomniacs got another return on the throw one after Danye took one back to the house earlier in that first half.
Yeah, and I think maybe his most important uh, appearance for BIC are the big plays that he helped make in the Renegades, kind of the final eight um, round of the playoffs. The last Jersey v Jersey playoff game that BIC had, and that game really came down to the wire. The Renegades were probably one score, if here and there, switching one side to the other,
Well, the
from that
Renegades
being
were
a
up.
Renegades victory.
The
Um,
Renegades were up, and the BIC came back to win that game by 5.
yeah,
With
and they could have lost, and they easily could have lost. And without Mark Bagway playing both sides of the ball, for him to have, I think he had a receiving touchdown, he had a throwing touchdown. He was able to play defense in a way that really helped because for whatever reason, BIC, with the amount of talent that they have on their roster, they did struggle in the back end at times. And for me, I think keeping him on this list and just putting him there, it just shows that whenever he's involved in a season, even if it's for a game or two, his impact is so heartfelt that we saw it, and it happened again in the championship game. He was a player that BIC I think needed at times and was able to use the right way. And for a guy as talented as he was, joining a team like BIC, it almost felt like how BIC utilized Trey Robinson. It's like, hey, you're good enough to just be on the field, so we're going to put you in. And I don't know what position it's going to be from play to play, but you're one of the best 7, and you deserve to be out here. And I think that's kind of the definition of today's list. So number 3, a very familiar name, even though maybe we missed seeing him play a little bit more than we would probably have liked to, right? We would have preferred to see him more, but we'll take what we get. And at number 3, Mark Bagway makes this list. And so
definitely
for
can't
number,
definitely can't
so
deny his versatility for sure.
no, yeah, I mean, the only thing you can not deny about Mark Bagway is his availability, and
True.
even that for a guy that lives in Florida, for his availability for a Trenton, New Jersey team, it's pretty available if you're asking me.
Well,
Um,
that is an interesting flight and a longer drive, but I mean, he made it work and certainly helped the BIC deny the three-peat dreams of the Insomniacs. So I mean, credit must be given where credit must be. So
so he's our number 3, which brings us to our number 2
okay,
athlete.
Will. Okay, Will. The reason why I'm not on camera is because I'm currently in my car doing this podcast because I have to be at work in 54 minutes. That's why you're not seeing my face and haven't seen my face the last 2 shows. So that's why my face is not being shown, Will.
And for me, I'm walking around trying to put kids to bed at the same time as doing a podcast because this is Vegas time that we do 5:30, but in Jersey this is bedtime. So, Will, here's my face. Hopefully that suffices. Boom.
There, I'll show you my sunglasses as I'm currently at a red
Back
light.
to the baby. He's cuter anyway.
He
And
certainly
look, he's
has that.
doing the thing where he's like, "What'd you say? Huh?
He definitely
What?"
has the he definitely has the Hammond golden locks. That's for sure.
No, you didn't get that from a Hammond. He got that from the mama.
Well,
But
she does have your
all
last.
these,
She does have your last name. So
that's true. So all these ones, they do have they're turning it into the Hammond Gold. But yeah, he's got some good colorations. Can't take credit for those. My hair is white at this point, so maybe if you go with the platinum, I could be platinum blonde.
Eh? It's still
Um,
wisdom, no matter how you look at it, sir.
yeah, well, it is what it is. I'll take white hair over, and not to denigrate any of the great talents on the other side of the ball, as this is something that we've discussed before. But no, not that anybody I know is follically challenged or anything, but I'll just take the hair on my head. I don't care what color. But that rounds us out, Wilson, number two, which means, Dub, I think we should probably just do the. I mean, we're only 35 minutes in. I think we should probably just knock it out and get those returners in here. Maybe, but let's get through the last two. But my number two is the guy that I think, when you look at the stats and you look at the breakdown of each position, he's not a guy that stood out to me at any individual position. But we've actually mentioned this team a couple of times, and if you take the quarterback out of it, because I think Anthony Service was one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and the reason his team was doing so well is because of his play. But if you take him out of it, another rookie
Correct.
that really another rookie that really turned the tide for that Renegades team is a guy that I call Super NES, the notorious enormous Smalls. And for a guy whose last name is Small to be this friggin' big and play running back. They split him out at wide receiver and throw him touchdowns when it matters against the Watchmen, I believe. And his normal position is probably his every down position, defensive end. The Renegades kicked Dondre Haynes in at D tackle so this guy could get the edge rush opportunities and get to the quarterback as often as he did. And for a guy that when he stands next to a guy in Dondre Lyons that makes them both look like they're a normal size and everybody else are children. For him to have had the impact as a ball carrier, a receiver, and as a blocker and a defensive pass rusher, I think he, if it wasn't for the number one guy on this list, is probably the guy who embodies this ATH thing the most. Because for those football fans that buy the NCAA video game, if you were to recruit this kid out of high school, honestly, if you had to designate him a position, you would do whatever your team needed in that situation because he's absolutely getting recruited out of high school as an ATH. Now, my man is far from high school, and shout outs to him for making the list. But what do you say about the Super NES, number one in the program for the East Orange Renegades? Dub?
Well, you have heard me use the term a lot of times, Swiss Army knife. Um, and he's the epitome of that. But he's also the epitome of one of my favorite quotes that I say a lot during the broadcast, which is "Big man with football."
Absolutely
Um,
big and absolutely man and absolutely has the football. Absolutely. Yeah, keep going.
but it just goes to show you just how he was a key piece, along with Kyle Wright, along with Serve, and I mean, just to show you how the Renegades were going winless in 2024 to again, and we have knocked this subject on a dead horse with the stick so many times. But I mean, just how they on both occasions had the eventual champions, the BIC, on the ropes twice, and some people would say could have won both games if things were a different way. I mean, in the playoff game, they were up in the fourth quarter, but the BIC showing their championship pedigree and their championship art of not being denied and coming back to win by 5. But I mean, you go back to week 1, they had BIC on the ropes, took them to overtime, and if they catch that conversion, it could have been the East Orange Renegades. Certainly being in the Final Four, um, possibly playing for a championship. We'll never know because, again, as good old Gorilla Monsoon used to say, almost counts and almost hand shoot and hand shoots and horse grenades. But I mean, again, the Renegades was this year's or this past season's feel good story. And now the question is, can they build off that momentum that they gained here in 2025? Can they carry that into 2026? The Renegades are almost like the 2024 version of the Animals, up and coming, and now can they build on that? And for the Animals, they were part of the Final Four. Now, can the Animals get over that elusive hump, which is beating the BIC when it counts? For the Animals going into 26, for them, it's okay. They believe they can play with them. Now the question is, can they finish against them? I think that's their question going into 2026. Certainly, if the Renegades bring back their core back, and I don't see how that wouldn't happen, seeing as how this team was put together this past season, and putting together the season that they had. Because I mean, the Renegades had some heartbreaking losses. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
there was a bunch of games that were really close for the Renegades. I mean, there was the losses to BIC, but there was also that overtime game to the Watchmen in Baltimore.
yes.
And there was that playoff game. I mean, this time they won it. There was the playoff game against the QC Crush that went down to the last possession. So I mean, the Renegades were the team that had the best chance of having an entertaining game that day. Um, when they were on games of the week. But I will say this for a guy that was on the 0-7 Renegades, the size and speed that they added year to year, it's embodied by the one guy that is both, right? And Super NES was absolutely super. He became notorious with both his on-field persona as well as his ability. And for a guy named Smalls, he is enormous. So um, that would be our number two. Which you mentioned the animals, and then as we're kind of doing this like on the fly, what I think probably deserves a spot on this list because we're really not doing tight ends. Is probably the best tight end in the A7FL season. IG Live, Isaiah Gonzalez for the rookie tight end who played defensive end opposite of our best defensive lineman, Trey Baskerville. Um,
Hmm.
and was just as effective at times, now not as consistently maybe, as his counterpart in Baskerville, as well as being one of the leading receivers on the offensive side of the ball for the Animals and David Tender. And when Tender was out, IG was at quarterback in that playoff game in which they absolutely destroyed the Heathens. So I don't know if we want to try to like retrofit him in there somewhere. Um, but I just kind of, I felt like it was an unreasonable exclusion of just not mentioning him. So maybe he doesn't make our list. Maybe we have a come to Jesus once we do all the names because we only have one more, and then maybe we slide him in there. What do you think?
Well, he is definitely deserving of an honorable mention. Certainly held down the fort when Tinder was nursing that ankle injury and basically just saving time until Tinder got back. But I mean,
Well, I mean,
certainly,
CJ at quarterback was the main guy, but they were putting other guys in because let's face it. I mean, everybody was having fun in those games. But anyway, what were you saying?
no, I'm just saying I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to give him some name recognition. I mean, heck, I'm staying with the animals. It's hard not to not mention Quanny Morgan because, of course, we know what Quanny Morgan can do in the return game, along with what he does on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, he
Um,
makes if we do returners next, I think he makes that list. So, but
I definitely think
absolutely.
so. But definitely want to give him a shot because I mean he has definitely shown off his athleticism for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
And Kasim Perry, right? Who, if it wasn't for Manny Diaz's like elite year, we would be talking about KP, who was an absolute stud at wide receiver for most of the season as well. But I don't know. I guess we're just throwing names out here at the end. But you know what? You know
yeah,
what I say? You know what I say?
what's
Since
that?
this is our show and we're already this far into it, fuck them. Anyway, number one. Dub, who is our
Number one.
number one athlete? Because this is a guy that we've mentioned on other lists before, but I think
Yes.
he's the perfect number one at this list.
Well, he definitely was the definition of the acronym ATH this past season. Uh, I mean, just think of it like this. Last season, he played on two teams, started off with the Kryptonite, went to the Gold, and basically the pack of wolves basically recruited him per se and be like, you know what, you might not can do this and this, but you can do this, this, and this. And he took that challenge. He took that role. And you want to talk about thriving in a role. Nobody thrived in their role more in 2025 than our number one ATH, and that is one William Megatron Coswell of the Las Vegas Insomniacs, who, I mean, the very first game of the year, albeit against his former team, the Gold, but regardless, showed off exactly um, the versatility that he did uh, in the return game, on defense, on offense, became a huge red zone target for Scott Scooter Hamilton in the red zone. Definitely became that center fielder to complement Donnie and playing up on the line of scrimmage. Became that center fielder in that Ed Reed, Ronnie Lott type of position of free safety. And then, I mean, again, in the championship game, all being a losing cause, he was everywhere from making plays in the end zone, making plays on defense. I mean, just William Coswell, just the impact that he, I mean, it's not like the Insomniacs needed him with the talented roster that they have and they keep putting out, certainly under this version of the Insomniacs, under the guidance of head coach James Burgoyne. But I mean, just what he meant to the team and just what he did, whatever, whenever his number was called, just goes to show you just, you know, the diamond in the rough, if you will, of just how talented Megatron is. And just, I'm anxious to see how he'll be used in 2026. And I mean, definitely he was reinvigorated when he put on the red and the black of the Insomniacs, and definitely was one of the reasons why the Insomniacs had a chance to do something that has not been done in ASIN, which was to threepeat, although they fell short. I think moving forward, um, he will definitely play an even bigger role for the Wolfpack going forward in 2026, I believe. But I mean, there's no denying the man's talents, and there's no denying the man of what he meant to this team this season, and just his contributions to the team. I mean, it goes unparalleled. It really does.
Yeah, and for me, it's funny because in one of the earlier shows that we were doing these countdowns, we talked about guys that had made the list last year and where they might end up on this year's list. And William Carswell was the last name on our least important list when you break it down. When we did last year's lists, we got all the information, and a guy popped out on an interesting stat line because when we were looking at the returners and the touchdowns scored on the season, there's a guy who made the top of the list, the leaderboard, albeit at the bottom of the leaderboard, still the leaderboard, and had 100% ratio of 3-on-1 returns for touchdowns. And having two attempts and two returns for touchdowns on the Gold, say what you want. I mean, it is a weird one because then my first thought was, well, why was it only two, right? But the second thing is that, yeah, damn, for the Gold, I mean, this guy's just out here balling and then probably, doesn't have the ability to show it in other opportunities for whatever reason, right? Fast
Mm-hmm.
forward this year, great championship game. Both teams are great teams with a lot of great players. I talked to a lot of the guys after that game, but in respect to Carswell, two guys stood out to me. Now, the first was a guy who made this list last year at the corner position. And we talked about BIC's corners and, kind of what was going on there. And there is a lot to talk about if we wanted to maybe break down the story at that position for that team. But H3 Frazier is definitely a guy that can play that position in this league. Well, he told me, he was like, yeah, damn. Because he thought I was going to come up to him and talk about the touchdown that he gave up to William Carswell as, like, my my persona as a troll in general may have betrayed me there. But that's not what I went to go talk to H3 Frazier about. I went to congratulate a BIC player for winning, and his thoughts on that game were, yeah, that guy kind of made me look foolish, didn't he? Because Carswell caught that end of the first half touchdown, and it was basically a one-on-one situation where he was taller, went up top, grabbed the thing, and did what his job was to do on the Insomniacs, which was to be, in his words, not mine, an up top god in air quotes. Um, so that was the first guy that came to mind as somebody who mentioned Carswell. And then the other guy was the quarterback for BIC, Sterry Codrington, who we haven't mentioned in a list this year just because we haven't done his position. But we did mention him in MVP talks and Offensive Player of the Year talks. And when we talked about the championship, I'm sure people know who Sterry is. And what Sterry remembered from the game is when BIC got their best run play of the day, calling a quarterback option in which Sterry faked it, kept it, and ran up the sideline, something that he's done tons of times in the A7FL, and most of the time scores. Dub, he also
Correct.
most of the time is scoring on a full-sized 100-yard field. Well, not in the championship because William Carswell happened to be playing on the opposite side of the field and was able to, on an angle drill, hawk down even Sterry Codrington. So that just kind of shows you the type of guy we're talking about. Coming from the other side of the field on a quarterback run from Sterry Codrington on a 70-yard field, he was able to hawk down maybe the fastest quarterback in our league, one of the fastest players in our league. And that's on an angle pursuit, by the way. And then flipped it
So
around to the offensive side of the ball in the championship game, one of the biggest moments of that game, to keep it close. Scott Hamilton trusts not Munchie, which obviously he trusts, not Davik, which had also caught multiple touchdowns in that game. It was
yeah,
Carswell
at four of
who
them.
had the catch at the end of the half to keep the game close, and he made the play. And he made it on the route. He made it on the catch. He basically walked onto the field, and I'm sure Scott Hamilton knew he was probably the best option on that play. So when you talk about guys that can fit this role of just, hey, get out there and ball, he is not only the perfect guy as far as production, but he also fits that persona that we're looking for from a guy that's just ready to just go out there and do whatever. Because the other thing that we remember from William Carswell is in the big games, especially against that Animals team, in which he was making a ton of big plays, he was not afraid, whether it was the cameraman or some perceived slight from some unknown enemy that we're not sure about yet. He was ready to talk that talk too. And I
Oh,
kind of draw.
he was
I
never.
Go
No,
ahead.
I agree. He was not. No, he was never not afraid to show off or to let everybody know that I'm talented. I can play this game, and I am here. He was definitely not afraid because I mean, after he made the touchdown reception, I mean, he was not afraid to get up at H3 Frazier's face. Was not afraid to even go up to the fans that were there. You know, it, I don't want to say it was a hostile crowd, but I mean certainly more, New Jersey fans than Nevada fans. But he was not. I mean, he was not scared at all going into the lion's den, for lack of a better term, and just saying, "I am here. Hear me roar."
Yeah, and I'm it's maybe it's a new fact that I'm bringing to the table in this episode 150 something. I am
153.
I am closer to elderly than youthful, at least as far as it comes to the football sensibilities. So yeah, I'm a grumpy old man when it comes to football. But I will say this, not only does his play on the field kind of, endear me towards liking him as a player, but as much as I don't love guys who chirp, the way he did it, at least in the Animals game, I know that there was a little bit of a different tone that the Insomniacs were kind of taking with BIC. But at least in the Animals game, I think the front and center, you know, look at me type of stuff he was doing, it wasn't to necessarily look at his opponent in the face and be negative towards them. I think the passion and the exuberance was look at what I'm doing and how good I'm doing. It was more of a positive look at me than it was a in the face, like "F you, look at me." And I kind of, it kind of endeared me towards him as a player. And look, great players have every right to talk trash as well. So that's not what I'm saying. But it seemed to me the excitement and the enthusiasm wasn't in a I'll get in my opponent's face and shame him type of thing. It was just that's the type of passion that he plays this game with. And when he scores or makes a big play, he lets the camera know that as well. So I don't think there's a better number one this year for this list. And you know, hey, we did it, Dub. It's 57 minutes, and we perfectly rounded this top seven out in an hour-long show. Shout outs to Chris on his birthday. This is for you, buddy.
Yes, definitely hope, Mr. Veer, you are enjoying your birthday with your loved ones. Certainly very deserving of it. Um, and hopefully you just enjoy the next chapter of whatever you write in your next chapter, because birthdays are fun, birthdays are special,
It's
and so.
chapter 39 again for Chris.
Yeah, he always likes to talk about, hey, I'm getting old. I'm like, Chris, stop that. As my grandmother would always say, keep living. So
There you go. I thought
that's
I thought it was what your other grandma says, which is black don't crack, but I guess it was the you were talking about the other grandma.
well, that too. It surely does not crack, but um, I'm as old school as they come, and as they say, keep living, and that's what certainly I plan on doing, which is keep living. But I mean, this is like I said, this was a very hard list to do.
Yeah,
Because like I said,
so to
there's so
run
many.
it back, real quick, number 7. We had Betts from Sick With It. Number 6. Murphy
Matt
from Sick With It.
Murphy from Sick, yes.
Number 5. We settled on Chick. Good luck to Keno in the quarterback list. Number
But sir,
4. Nick Mays from The Watchmen. Number 3. Mark Bagway. Enough said. Number number 2. The Super NES, the Notorious Enormous Smalls from the Renegades, and Dub, our number 1 athlete, number 1 of the 2025 season,
goes
topping the
to
ATH
Mr.
list,
Coswell.
William
One William
Carswell
Coswell.
from the Insomniacs. And listen, we want to hear from the fans as well. We want to hear from Will Franklin. We want to hear from Shepard. We want to hear if Shepard knows that he made the running back list. And we
Well,
want to
he
hear
did
from
make
you. Not,
he
not,
he
not.
he did make a comment here, which shout out to Cool Case Justin Shepard. He did come on here and did comment.
Right?
But again, go to the Other Side of the Ball Network page, or go to your either the New Jersey Players page or the Nevada's Players page. I mean, really, there's only two positions left, which is returner and quarterback. So out of those two, fans, which one do you want us to do for next week's show? And hopefully we will have a full panel with Mr. Bear joining us again. But of
Yeah, and
course, he is celebrating his own personal holiday, which rightfully so.
right. And hey, guess what? If you don't vote, then we're gonna save the quarterbacks for last and go with 3-on-1 returners next week. And the question for 3-on-1 returners, Dub, is does Danye Lyons make the list because of how fearful people were to even give him an opportunity? And I think that will be an interesting conversation because it's almost proving a negative. And I think that mathematicians might want to tune in next week because I think that'll be interesting to try to prove that negative. So I guess as we're up on an hour, I'll preempt my parting shot with that's it. That's it. I'm done. Talked enough tonight. Dub, you have any parting shots?
um. Well, again, to our beloved teammate Chris Vera, happy birthday. Hopefully you are enjoying it with your loved ones, and that Miss Tammy is spoiling the heck out of you. But now I just want to say to all the athletes that made this list, congratulations. Well earned, well deserved. You guys are well deserving of that, and just continue to keep up the good work and get better, harness your craft, and maybe you can make this list for next year. But with that said, for Mr. Hammond, I am double A, which I guess now that I made it to work, I can show myself for the last few seconds of this show, if you will, as Corey Hammond is being dad and putting the kitties to bed, since it is 9:33 Eastern Daylight Time, and this the official second day of autumn, if you will. Certainly, thank you for joining us here on the other side of the ball as we will have episode 154
That's right.
coming to you next week. And again, if you don't vote, then the show will definitely be about the 3-on-1 return. And then we will conclude the top 7 with, some would say, the most important position in football. That would be the quarterback, if you will. But nonetheless, thanks for watching us, and we'll see you on the other side of the ball. Take care of yourself and each other.
Happy birthday.